right during the regular workday at Walmart, there are hidden corners quietly getting marked down that most shoppers walk right past without a second glance, while their wallets keep getting lighter every week. These 11 hidden deals almost never make it onto the weekly flyer. Know the right time and the right spot, and you'll save money that most shoppers have been missing out on for years. You'd be awesome if you subscribed and liked this video. 1. Fresh meat gets marked down at a set time every evening. 7 o'clock at night, the lights over the meat counter are still on, but the crowd has thinned out. This is exactly when ground beef, chicken, and pre-cut pork with a sell-by date of that same day gets switched over to clearance stickers. The original price of around $5.99 a pound drops down to $3.99 a pound, so you're saving $2 per pound, close to a third off the original price. That might sound small, but if your family goes through 3 pounds of ground beef a week for dinner, the savings add up over a year to a few $100s easily without changing a single recipe you already love. The reasoning behind this is simple. The store would rather move product fast before it expires than let it sit overnight, and the storage temperature stays at standard levels the entire time, so the quality of the meat doesn't change at all. Tuesdays and Thursdays tend to be the days with the most markdowns during the week, since these fall right between the big restocking days. Shifting your grocery trips to these 2 evenings gets you a lot more consistent access to marked down meat than shopping on the weekend. The exact time markdowns happen varies from store to store. Some start as early as 6 in the evening, others wait until closer to closing time. The fastest way to find out is to just ask whoever's working the meat counter. They know the real schedule better than anything you'll find online. Once you're home, freezing it right away lets you use it comfortably over the next few weeks with no drop in quality compared to buying it at full price. Splitting the meat into meal-sized bags before freezing means next time you only thaw out exactly what you need instead of one big block. The date printed on the label is a sell-by date, not a use-by date, since properly frozen meat holds its quality well for 3 to 4 months afterward, longer than most people realize. Out of this entire list, this is the most fundamental tip because it repeats every single day instead of just once a season. 2. Bread and baked goods get marked down by half. The bakery section at Walmart runs more like a small restaurant than a regular shelf. Bread, pastries, and donuts get baked fresh every day, and whatever doesn't sell isn't tossed out right away. It gets moved to a clearance tray either at the end of the day or the next morning, with prices dropping from $4 down to $2. You're paying exactly half for baked goods that are still soft, still smell fresh, just not quite as fresh as they were straight out of the oven a few hours earlier. The timing of when trays get switched isn't fixed. Some stores do it as early as 8 in the morning, others wait until closer to noon to clear out the older stock. Croissants and cinnamon rolls tend to get marked down earliest in the day since they have a shorter shelf life than loaf bread, while sliced birthday cakes often show up on the clearance tray over the weekend once special orders have already been picked up. The safest bet is to just ask the bakery staff what time they usually move older stock over to clearance, since the store has to sell through it that same day anyway, so this information isn't exactly a secret. For a family that eats bread or pastries in the morning, this price difference adds up faster than you'd think. Buying regularly twice a week can save you close to $200 a year from one simple clearance tray habit. Compared to packaged store bread at around $3.50 a loaf, which usually has more preservatives, the marked down bakery bread still tastes noticeably better, even though the price is only a little higher. The key is not to hold on to it too long. Eating it within 2 or 3 days is best, since this bread doesn't have the preservatives that packaged bread on the main shelf does. Sealing it in a zip bag and freezing it can stretch it out another week, and thawed bread still comes out soft if you warm it up in the oven for a few minutes. 3. Seasonal items get slashed the moment a holiday ends. The holiday hasn't even been over 24 hours, and the Christmas or Halloween decoration aisle is already getting slashed to rock-bottom prices. This is practically a rule at every Walmart, but the actual speed of these markdowns is something few people fully understand. A decoration originally priced at $15 can drop to just $3 within a day or two, an 80% cut off the original price. The problem is the good stuff disappears fast because serious deal hunters already have the seasonal markdown schedule mapped out ahead of time. Some even mark specific dates on their phone calendar from the year before so they can come back at exactly the right moment the following year. Every price drop comes with a second and third round a few days apart, so asking the seasonal department staff when the next round is happening usually gets you a clear answer, since for them, it's just part of the work schedule, not some kind of business secret. Here's a tip. Buy a little earlier instead of waiting for rock bottom prices, because by the time it gets there, the good stuff is already gone, and all that's left are damaged items or colors nobody wanted. For families who decorate every year, buying ahead for next season while prices are low saves a good amount of money without any risk, since decorations sit fine for a whole year with no damage. String lights, door wreaths, and small mantle figurines are the best buys in this markdown round since they're durable and can be reused for years without ever going out of style. Wrapping paper and greeting cards also fall into this steep markdown category, often dropping to just a few dimes a roll, enough to stock up for the entire next year without spending extra. But the next deal is even harder to believe because it's not sitting in the clearance section at all. It's right there on the regular shelf next to the products you buy every week. 4. The Great Value brand. A box of cereal, canned goods, or toilet paper from a name brand runs $4, while the equivalent Great Value version costs just $2.50. That's a $1.50 difference on each item, and if you're filling a cart with dozens of items every week, the savings add up over a year to easily thousands of dollars. What makes this a truly hidden deal isn't the price itself, since anyone can see that on the shelf. It's that most shoppers still assume store brands are lower quality. In reality, a lot of Great Value products come out of the exact same factories as the name brands, with only the packaging and the name on the box being different. So most of that price gap comes down to advertising and brand costs, not the quality of the ingredients. Ground coffee from a name brand at $8 a bag compared to Great Value at $4.50 for the same amount shows this gap clearly. And with toilet paper, a 12-roll pack of a familiar name brand usually runs around $9, while the equivalent Great Value pack is just $6, a $3 difference on something every household buys every single week. People who know the ropes don't just write off store brands as inferior. They test items one at a time, starting with lower-risk stuff like canned goods or toilet paper, then gradually branching out into prepared foods. For a household on a tight budget, switching this shopping habit brings the most reliable savings on this entire list, since you're using it every week, not just once a year. This is a tip worth putting into practice starting with your very next shopping trip. No need to wait for anything. 5. Display or returned electronics. A pair of headphones or a Bluetooth speaker that was once on display or got returned by a customer who changed their mind doesn't get thrown out. It gets moved to a separate section with a deep markdown. An original price of $100 can drop down to $70, saving you $30 right away on an item that still works completely fine. A small scratch on the box or a dented package doesn't affect what's inside at all, and most of these products still carry the full manufacturer's warranty. This section usually doesn't have clear signage. It might be tucked behind the main electronics counter or on a small shelf near the returns area. Besides headphones and speakers, this section often includes older tablets, portable chargers, or smart speakers that were opened up for an in-store demo and then sealed back up in good condition. A Bluetooth speaker bought here for $70 still runs fine after months of daily charging, no different from a full-price version bought at another store around the same time, since the only issue here is cosmetic, not anything wrong with the internal parts. Check the item carefully right there before buying. Plug it in if there's a demo outlet available, and always keep your receipt in case something comes up later. The fastest way to find this section is to just ask if there's a spot for open box or display electronics. Most employees will walk you straight to it instead of giving you a vague answer. It's also worth asking whether the return window for this section is shorter than it is for brand new sealed items, since some stores cut it down to 15 days instead of the standard 90. Saving 30% on a fully functional piece of electronics is something you'll rarely find anywhere else in the same store. There's one more deal sitting right in the beauty aisle, something 9 out of 10 people skip right past just because the box doesn't look pretty. 6. Shampoo, body wash, and lotion. Have you ever passed on a bottle of shampoo just because the cap was slightly dented or the label was peeling at the edge? That's exactly why the price drops so sharply, going from $8 down to $5, almost a 40% cut on a product where the liquid inside is completely unaffected by a dent on the outside of the bottle. The store doesn't have time to inspect and fix packaging on every single bottle, so the usual approach is to gather them into one clearance area and sell through them before the new shipment hits the shelves. Large tube lotions show up most often in this section, since the outer shrink wrap tends to tear easily during shipping, while pump bottles of body wash get damaged less often, so they show up less frequently. Instead, keep an eye out for shelves with yellow or orange clearance signs, usually a different color from the regular price tags, and don't hesitate to check whether the cap is still sealed before putting it in your cart. Some stores keep this on a small shelf at the end of an aisle. Others gather it into a basket near the main checkout area, so damaged packaging shows up here pretty regularly. Almost every week, there's something new worth checking out. Swing by this shelf first every time you go shopping, and over the course of a year, you can stock up on shampoo and lotion for the whole family at close to no extra cost compared to buying at full shelf price. If your household goes through shampoo and body wash every month, shopping this section regularly can meaningfully cut down your personal care costs without lowering the quality of products you already use. 7. Post-holiday or damage box toys, the steepest markdowns of the year. Right after a big holiday, the toy aisle at Walmart becomes the most heavily marked down section in the entire store, even more than seasonal clothing. A puzzle set or a doll originally priced at $25 can drop down to just $10, a 60% cut off the original price. The reason isn't just that the holiday has passed, it's also that the store needs to clear space quickly for the next seasonal shipment coming in. Boxes with dented corners or slightly torn shrink wrap also get pulled into this clearance section, even though the toy inside is completely untouched, never opened or used even once. This pattern doesn't just happen after Christmas, it repeats the same way after Easter with egg-shaped toys and gift baskets, or after Valentine's Day with stuffed animals. So this cycle shows up 4 times a year, not just once. If you're already planning to buy gifts for next year's holiday, this is the smartest time to buy ahead, since toys don't spoil over time the way fresh food does. Here's a tip most people miss. Check the toy section every couple of weeks during this post-holiday stretch, since prices keep dropping in stages instead of just once. An item can go from $25 down to $10, then a few weeks later drop even further to under $7 if it's still sitting on the shelf. Saving $15 per item multiplied across a few gifts a year makes a real difference to your gift budget without any drop in quality. Set the toys you buy ahead aside in a sealed box and write down who they're for right when you buy them, so you don't forget you already prepared a gift 6 months in advance. But there's one section at Walmart where even brand new employees have to learn to spot the markdown signs because it's right there in the freezer. 8. Frozen food with damaged packaging still holds its quality inside. A frozen pizza box or a bag of vegetables with a torn corner usually gets passed over at first glance, but the packaging is only an outer layer of protection. It doesn't determine the quality of the food inside as long as it's been kept frozen the whole time. Prices here drop from $6 down to $3.50, saving you close to half on items that taste no different and are no less fresh than the sealed versions on the main shelf. What determines the price in this section is the condition of the packaging, not the date printed on the box, which is completely different from fresh meat or bread, since frozen food has a much longer shelf life, so the outer packaging is really the only thing affecting the price here. If it were me, I'd check carefully whether it's thawed and refrozen, a sign usually shown by unusually large ice crystals inside the bag. If you see that, skip it even at a low price, since that's a real sign of freezer burn, not just a packaging issue. But if the packaging is only slightly torn and the food is still solidly frozen, this is one of the safest deals to buy since the risk is close to zero. Grab a few bags of vegetables with slightly torn packaging, reseal them into a zip bag right when you get home, and you can use them gradually over the next 2 months with no difference in quality compared to buying them at full price. For busy households that stock up on prepared frozen food, checking the frozen clearance section every time you shop is a habit that adds up in savings without costing you any extra shopping time. 9. School and office supplies get deeply marked down once back-to-school season ends. Thinking that once back-to-school season is over, there's no reason to check the school supply aisle is exactly the mistake that costs people triple the price the following year. Just a few weeks into the new school year, this section at Walmart goes through its biggest clearance push of the year. Pens, notebooks, and backpacks, originally priced at $12, can drop down to just $4, over a 60% cut on items that are still in perfect condition, just no longer part of peak shopping season. This usually happens toward the end of September, when the store needs to clear shelf space for the next seasonal items, like Halloween decorations. If you're planning to wait, the key date to remember is right after Labor Day in early September, when the store needs to clear shelves faster and prices in this section usually drop again. Crayons, sticky notes, and pencil cases tend to be marked down the deepest since they're overstocked the most, while popular backpack styles sell out faster, so you'll need to check early to still have good options. Savvy shoppers here often buy ahead for the entire next school year right when prices hit bottom, since pens, notebooks, and backpacks don't go bad over time if stored properly, completely unlike food or seasonal items that spoil quickly. For families with multiple kids in school, stocking up on cheap supplies saves a meaningful amount every year without having to deal with higher prices during next year's peak season. This is one of the least used tips on this whole list, even though it's simple and the savings percentage is among the highest here. The second to last deal on this list sits somewhere you'd least expect, right by the exit, where plants are waiting to be rescued. 10. Wilted plants and potted flowers. A lot of people assume a wilted plant is a dead plant, so they walk right past the garden section near the exit without a second look, but in reality, most of them just need water or light for a few days and can bounce back completely if you care for them right when you get home. Prices here drop from $10 down to $3, a 70% cut on a living product that, once nursed back to health, can end up being worth just as much as a fully healthy plant at full price. Plants get moved into this clearance category based on how wilted they look, not how old they are, and this section tends to be busiest in late spring and early fall, when the store rotates seasonal plants faster than usual. So these are the 2 times of year worth checking more often than the rest. The trick is picking plants with wilted leaves but a still sturdy stem and avoiding any showing signs of root rot at the base, since that kind is much harder to save than one that's simply thirsty. Once you're home, just water it regularly and keep it somewhere with indirect light for the first week, and most plants will visibly perk back up green after just a few days of care. Grab a few wilted plants at $3 each, repot them into a larger pot with fresh soil after a week of care, and most will thrive for years afterward, working out to less than a third of the original price per plant. For anyone who likes decorating with greenery but is watching their budget, this is the cheapest way to get a beautiful plant without paying full price for a healthy one off the main shelf. Not every marked down plant is worth buying, but if you know how to check the stem and roots, you'll pick the right one almost every time you check this section. The final deal on this list sits in a spot you use every day but rarely notice has its own shelf for previously handled goods. 11. Single kitchenware items from display or returns. Knives, cutting boards, and dishware that were once used as display models or returned by customers who weren't satisfied usually get gathered into a separate clearance section kept apart from the main kitchenware shelf. Prices drop from $20 down to $8, saving you $12 over half the original price for items whose only difference is having been handled or displayed on a shelf for a few weeks beforehand. The actual quality of knives or cutting boards barely changes, since these are durable items, unlike food or cosmetics that degrade with time. Thick wooden cutting boards and matching dish sets show up most often here, since they tend to get returned simply because a customer changed their mind about the color, not because of any defect. The fastest way to find this is to just ask if there's a clearance section for display items, since it usually doesn't have big signage, just a small shelf tucked away in a far corner, harder to find than even what shows up on the store map in the app. Check whether the knife blade is still sharp and the handle isn't loose before buying, since that's the only real difference between a display item and a brand new one still in the box. A 4-piece knife set bought here for $8 still holds a sharp edge after more than a year of regular use, holding up just as well or even better than many full-priced sets bought elsewhere. For anyone wanting to upgrade their kitchen tools without paying full price, this is the best value on the entire list, since kitchenware is durable and gets used every day, not just once and tucked away like seasonal decorations. These 11 hidden corners aren't on any flyer. They're built into the habit of paying attention every time you walk into the store. Just remembering to hit the meat counter on the right Tuesday evening or swing by the plant section near the exit can save you more than a whole year's worth of coupons combined. Shop smart out there.